All right. Good evening, everyone. Merry Christmas. Do a special discussion for this week because I'll be off on Christmas vacation. Got my green tea, so that means, of course, I'm going to have a runny nose sooner or later. Seems to always work that way. Um, I wanted to touch on a few things, and then this might be a short chat because I know there's not a lot going on right now. Mm, green tea with honey never fails. So, I've been getting a lot of questions about the MJO. A lot of questions. And I wanted to basically go over what's actually happening here. Now, a lot of people, what they're going to do is that they're going to focus on the European and they're going to focus on maybe the CFS. And those are going to be your two extremes. You're either going to get locked into phase 7 or go all the way to phase 1 and 2. What isn't being discussed, and what I find very interesting, is the volatility involved in this forecast. There is a lot of differences in the model suites of either taking this in phase 7 or pushing this into phase 1. And the reason why, we can see that via the convection. Excuse me. Okay, so we're getting convection starting to fire up in the Indian Ocean, getting convection firing up in Southeast Asia. We had a typhoon. We're seeing convection with the subtropical jet stream firing up around Hawaii. This leads to a lot of volatility and a lot of chaos. So as a result, you're seeing a lot of different solutions and models going in a variety of different paths. And some say, oh, winter is canceled because it's always going to stay in phase 7. That's not what's happening. And I can show you what is a good way to find out where we're going here. And that is the SOI, the daily values. See, if we were going to stay in phase 7, all right, maybe go back to phase 6, as some were suggesting, our daily contributions would be positive. They wouldn't be heading into a negative state. This supports phase 8, 1, 2. Okay, so the more we see this daily contribution with a weak La Nina signal, the more likely we're going to see that MJO shift into phase 8 and 1. The timing of it is what's really the crux here. How do we figure out the timing because we have so much noise? And how important is it? Well, let's take a look at the 500 millibar pattern. And this is, first of all, 50 millibars. And I wanted to show this because remember I kept on saying watch this polar vortex get disrupted? Well, there it is, getting disrupted. So it's getting stretched. It might actually get pinched off here to split off. So very, very interesting setup here, starting to evolve here. And you can see hints of that also on the GFS guidance. Pull that up here. So as I was saying a couple of days ago, the last time we had our chat, there is so many moving parts right now that the models, and I would warn this, the models are going to go all over the place. They're going to create complete and total chaos. So don't trust storm or temperature outlooks until you get about 7 days out, okay? Then you can start to trust the details about 3 to 5 days out. Because there's so much going on here in stretching and manipulating the circulation. Let's take a look at the GFS. That there's just going to be a lot of different solutions with each model run. So this is why I am not panicking or anything of that nature, because I am seeing something that's even more impressive in the model guidance. No, it isn't a major winter storm. It's something far more important. Our polar vortex in the troposphere essentially gets crushed and broken up like a bit of hard candy and split all over the place. This is a signal that allows cold air to build south, initially in the Rockies and then bleeds to the east, much like what the forecast was. There is our La Nina influence, there's our storm track coming in, there's a suppression. And why am I keeping an eye on this? because of what's happening at 850 millibars and 925 millibars. At 850 millibars, you're seeing very impressive Arctic air just setting up here, ready to drain south. At 925 millibars, right here, it hints at that doing so even further. So we have low level cold air concerns here. So that is how we start getting these signals showing up. Now, for the most part, we'll start off with New England pretty much getting the best chance for snow. But then look what's happening as these systems are coming in. Greater chance for ice, greater chance for snow. Again, you don't take any of this verbatim, but definitely some interesting data to begin to start to see evolve here. So, when we take a look at the models and the differences in the models, you can see for Christmas, both guidance agrees that your strongest upper level low is going to be up here in Canada. So this is a warm air transport, just scattered showers, late Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. Other than that, I really don't expect much of a major impact. The next threat is more so on a European because it splits this upper level low and it has a core of Arctic air, whereas the GFS is much weaker. And the differences in how these shortwaves interact is really going to be the story really for the entire winter. And so that's what we're going to really start to watch after Christmas. We're going to have to watch to see how these polar and Arctic air masses interact, and we watch that low level cold air bleed south. So I'm going to take some of your questions, and like I said, this might be an early night depending on your number of questions. I just kind of wanted to walk you through everything. I know that some people had some questions about Christmas, about the pattern, so I just kind of wanted to break some stuff down for you before I leave for a little bit of a Christmas break, which I'll still be doing updates, but no videos. So I wanted to touch base on that. Earth New School, let's pull that up. We walked through some of your questions. Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you. Hoping for some real winter weather post-Christmas. You know, it usually works out that way anyway, you know. So let's go to 10 millibars. And, excuse me. I've taken up my parents' theme here that every time they have a hot drink, they get a runny nose, and I get the same thing now. So I still haven't figured out how to get rid of that. Let's see here, 10 millibars. Yeah, it's starting to get stretched out. It's starting to get that influence. It's not there yet. More so at 70 millibars. And that makes sense because of the nature of our transport, which is still going to be very strong. See the observations right here and the forecast right here. Things are going to get interesting. Card axes. Sun got active. Coral hole stream hit us today. Solar flare burst. Yep. Sun definitely picked up in its activity. Should be interesting to see how that impacts the ionosphere and the upper stratosphere. But right now, I'm kind of waiting to see the data click in. Let's see. Frank says, I almost feel that this was the same outcome as a couple of years ago when we wait for the cold to arrive, but it continually delayed. I think that year's a little bit different in that the processes were different. I understand that you want to see the snow and the cold air come in right now. The process is evolving. I'd be more concerned if I didn't see any disruption, if I didn't see a weak East Base La Nina, or I didn't see an MJO moving through Phase 7. If it was stuck in Phase 5 and 6, I think we'd be in trouble. Thank you, Bill. I have to move out of my house by January 13th. I know it's a long way out, but is there a time frame you would recommend for leaving without dealing with bad weather? Ooh, Bill. I'll be honest with you, man. I would suggest checking back. If you're going to move out, if you can, I'd probably do it closer to the start of the new year. But I don't really know. Like, I can't say like on this day it'll be fine. But best of luck. I know it's hard moving this time of year, especially with winter weather and everything else. Chris from Keystone asks, "Hey Steve, if that negative PNA doesn't turn positive and storms keep crashing into California or Northwestern, this season's over. When storms crash into the west, flattens out the heights, the southeast ridge will dominate. Is there a reason that La Nina is acting like a strong one so far?" It literally isn't. Okay, so let's pull up the 500 millibar pattern. Okay. And our southeast ridge, here, let's rotate. Let's go here. Our ridge is being displaced to the east, with East Base La Nina. The forecast has always been for a trough to dig somewhere in the plains into the northern Rockies, thus the cold air. The key to the forecast is not changing the PNA, because it's really difficult to change the PNA in a La Nina year. The key is to keep this locked in. If you keep this locked in, you get cold air locked in, and you get storm tracks coming from Oklahoma through Virginia and off the Delmarva Peninsula. This is not a year of a Miller A storm. A lot of people are looking for a Miller A storm. That's not the right season. It's not the right setup. That type of setup, you need a weak west base El Nino. That's what you would look for. This is an east base La Nina, and we know that it's not overly strong, because then we wouldn't be able to develop the blocking that we're starting to develop. Let's see here. There's a couple questions here, so let me run through. There seems to be a lot of amplification at 250 millibars and 500 millibars, even before the strato split occurs. Is that a sign of troposphere staying decoupled from the stratosphere to some extent? And also, is the primary issue for storms going to be timing? Yes, the primary issue this year is going to be all about timing, and the interaction of Arctic air masses with the more tropical air masses or maritime air masses. That's going to be a theme all winter. I would say that there's definitely some decoupling going on right now. I'm not sure whether that's going to remain the case. What do you expect the effect of very warm Atlantic waters for this time of year will have going forward? Will it pump the southeast ridge leading to warm, wet weather, or will the NAO able to fight it off? It's going to create a higher potential for cyclogenesis. So I think that that's going to be a factor, especially when you have those Arctic air masses that are sitting right here around the St. Lawrence River. I think that you're going to see sometimes when the block breaks down, it's going to support the southeast ridge to build northward. Absolutely. And we'll end up in a mild pattern from time to time. What's keeping the PNA? What's keeping the PNA from helping out with sustained cold? Well, that's why the forecast was never for sustained cold. It was always for transient cold, because you're not going to get sustained cold with a negative PNA pattern. The forecast, just to reiterate, has always been transient cold, and we are in the battle zone. So some weeks we're in the 50s, and then we'll shift into the 20s with a lot of snow and ice, back up to warm conditions again. A lot of people use 95, 96. They always mention the snowstorms, but they rarely talk about the flash flooding and temperatures jumping up into the 60s with heavy rainfall in between those storms. That's essentially what La Nina is. Thank you, Guy. Weather in Britain has been cold and snowy the past winters. It seems like it takes 7 to 10 days for the pattern to reach us. Is that true, or am I just being optimistic? There is some correlation to that. It's a little weak, but it revolves around the development of the negative NAO pattern. That's why. The 12Z ECMWF shows a stretched polar vortex bringing cold into the U.S. around New Year's. Is there a chance it doesn't get this far east? There is a chance, but I don't right now. I don't see that happening. But we're going to see exactly how the polar vortex evolves and shifts. Doesn't the line where the air masses clash also support storm tracks moving along that line as well? Yes, it is basically psychogenesis. After the huge blizzard in 2006 with 30 inches of snow, we had 60-degree weather and heavy rain. Exactly. That's the type of weather pattern that evolves in this type of situation. What you guys are looking for, excuse me, what you guys are looking for is essentially a weak El Nino. That's not the pattern this year. So when someone says sustained cold, the forecast never was sustained cold. I should have put it in bold letters. Yeah. It's always been transient, as in cold one week, warm the next. Cold the next week, warm the next. The type of pattern that just drives you nuts. But sustained cold, that's for the Rockies and Northern Plains. What pattern do we need to get sustained cold in our area? You would need a strong negative NAO pattern with an upper level low, a lot like this, but stronger than this. And that would drag the cold air and lock it in, let's say, to about the Delmarva Peninsula. Not by data, but by memory. I remember 2016, all I heard was winter is over. Then boom, end of January, we got 30. Yep, absolutely. Excuse me. Let's see here. Well, let's find out. El Nino, let's see, 76, 77, 77, 78. Historic. Let's see here. 76, 77 was an El Nino. It was two El Ninos, 2 weak El Ninos. So any idea the pattern effect of our current dry past couple of months? It has actually been pretty dry, and drought monitor has increased up the East Coast. Do you think we are going to see the pattern moisten up? Just seems like these storms keep coming in dry. Thoughts on this, even if it's cold enough? Seems like even if we get snow, it's going to be on the lighter side. I'm waiting to see what happens when the MJO gets into 8-1. That should lead to a more robust subtropical jet stream and thus more precipitation. We're seeing a lot of dry outcomes, not necessarily because of moisture transport, but because, I'll pull this up here. Yeah, we'll do 250. Okay. So here's the problem here. Freaking load. Okay. The polar jet stream and the subtropical jet stream aren't in sync. So they're shearing the heck out of each other. So this storm that is, well, I mean, it's a pretty vigorous storm, right? It's extratropical, by the way. It's not tropical. It's going to get sheared apart and kicked right out in the Atlantic because the polar jet stream is just not playing nice. So what you essentially need is for this interaction to take place and start to evolve. Once we get that, then we start to set up a feedback pattern, and that could lead to increased potential for precipitation. Let's see, checking out YouTube. When will the big snowstorms hit the I-95 corridor? Usually, historically, January and February. So, pattern change and cold keep getting delayed. No, it's pretty much evolving as I've been expecting. I mean, it's cold out there. Yes, you don't have 10 inches of snow out there, but the pattern is evolving and changing. Steve, is it true which drivers a particular model thinks will dominate will lead to one solution, then the next run, when it picks a different dominant driver, it leads to another solution? Depends on what model you're using and what the physics are involved, and what you're forecasting for. If you have a mesoscale model, your model is going to change based on the observations being fed into it on an hourly basis. If it's more of a synoptic model, it takes in a variety of different factors, which can lead to also a variety of different errors, convective feedback, and it's your job to kind of try to find out, okay, where are the errors, how they impact the forecast, where are the equations involved, and how much of an impact does it have on your area, which all can be rather complicated. But is it going to play, I guess, the question? I think so. I honestly do. I'm seeing a lot here. If I wasn't seeing, if I could just pull it up, if I wasn't seeing this, I'd be concerned. But the more disruption we see, the more likely that polar vortex is going to get disrupted. And also, when I'm seeing this in the guidance, now again, granted, I don't take this verbatim, but when I'm seeing the potential here of essentially our polar vortex being split to pieces like a hard candy with a hammer, it certainly catches my eye. Like, okay, something's going on here, where we're seeing a significant change. So we have to see how that plays out. Again, Christmas snow is so rare, and yes, about 5 to 15% chance. 5 to 15%. So when people say there's no snow for Christmas, winter canceled, I'm like, are you insane? Do you not know your climatology? Yeah, sure. If you're in the Green and White Mountains, it's troubling. Which, by the way, they'll have snow. Which kind of reminds me of one of my favorite Christmas movies, Let It Snow. Yeah. But this time of year is not really our winter storms. I always said when we have our major winter storm in December, that's like extra credit. That's bonus money, because it's really hard to get it pulled off because December is usually a month where you're changing things up. My recollection is that when the polar vortex breaks up into a couple pieces, the real question is if those pieces go where projected or end up in unexpected places, like China. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a cold, that's why there's so much volatility, and that's why I say to people, don't worry about what the models are saying right now because it's just way too much volatility going on. I'm being asked, why do people winter is canceled? Why do people are saying winter is canceled? Social media is a weird beast. And look, meteorologists have been dealing with this from the early internet days with weather forums. Some people they get very angry, like as if it's like a personal affront. Like, sorry, I don't control the weather. If I did, the Mets would never have a rain delay. Come on, okay? So, I don't know what to tell these people, but they get very emotional, very angry, and very rude. I don't know why. I think that there's something. See, when you run across something like that, the reality is that there's something deeper going on. So I kind of feel bad for them. I'm like, all right, vent. All right, I'm just going to mute you. But there's something else going on there that really is, that person's kind of crying out for help. So hopefully they get it. Okay, do we have any other questions? What is? Oh, here we are. What is the anticipated length of the polar vortex split before consolidating? Do you expect a repeat performance for February? I do see the vectors continually warming air transport. Usually it's about 4 weeks. A second one is kind of hard to pull off, but it's possible for mid February. The rest of the key pitcher, right? Oh, nah. I want them playing all the time. And now that we have an actual manager, I'm not so worried about it. Let's see here. Now, I'm getting a question about the football games. Problem is that I don't know when the football games are on anymore because I kept on moving all of the scheduled games. But we'll focus on Sunday, day after Christmas. And let's see. Nothing really too big. You know, I don't know. Is Green Bay playing at home? That could be interesting. We should move it. We should. I tell you what. We should move all the teams that play in domes, especially along the Gulf Coast, during the winter months to play in North Dakota. How about that? That'd be awesome. That'd be fun because that would lead to a lot of snow events. That'd be a lot of fun. But I'm not seeing anything too significant. People are saying February is going to be mild. Dylan, what I would say to you is this: ask those people why. What's your physical reasoning? And don't just say model. Okay? If someone says, well, a model, that means they didn't look. Because models are wrong. I mean, look, we just went over how there's model error. So the question you need to ask that person is, why do you think that? And based on what science? What are you looking at? Yeah, not bad. Okay, I think I'm gonna call in for a night and wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for again being in the live chat and supporting this. I know we're coming up to the new year. I will have something to say about everything going into 2022 when we have our live chat ahead of New Year's. But I just wanted to wish you guys, regardless of what you're celebrating, Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever. And we will. I just want to, hopefully you guys had a great time. I can't talk tonight. I just hope you guys get out as much as I do with doing this because I really love it. And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Next live chat is going to be 12/29. That's a Wednesday. We go back to the Wednesdays. So I think that would be better because I enjoy watching New Year's Eve. Me and Susan like to watch CNN and see how bad they screw up and see how bad they're going to, how drunk or high they get on air. I'm like, oh, that's good. So I want to say again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. Have a wonderful night, and as always, stay safe out there.
Merry Christmas, everyone.